different, interesting.
Hello.
How are you sitting? It's just we need to. You're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
There you go.
Let's not have the two white men next to each other.
Okay.
Can we just
distribute
us?
Yeah.
Can we intersperse?
What is that? Ready? Oh, yeah. I can maybe go
Or you should go in the middle.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
If you change the spell, you have to change the mic. It's very special
Hello?
thing for some reason. Yeah.
That's, oh, I see.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. What's up, y'all?
Hello,
I can't
everyone.
hear you. What's up, y'all? Yo!
I'm so glad you're here.
Woo! Okay, so we're gonna get started. You know, you're welcome to sit or stand for this experience. This is gonna be an experience, right? Like, we wanna make sure everyone is gonna have fun. We're gonna learn something. We're gonna grow together here on stage. And it's really loud, so, you know, just like bear with us as we work our way through this. So just to kick things off, let me just check with AV. AV, are we good? We're good? Okay, sick. So, woo! I really can't hear y'all, like,
Woo! Yes,
woo, 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 woo. Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah, so I would love to start just like with introductions, like basic stuff. I'm gonna pass it over to Yacob.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yacob. I am the CEO and co-founder of Pariti, and Pariti is building infrastructure for entrepreneurship in Africa. We help founders raise money and hire talent, and collectively we've come together to form Pando DAO, which is the highest quality of founders building Africa together.
Beautiful. That was so brief. I feel like you have so much more to say.
Closer, like right here.
I feel like he has so much more to say than that. I'm Zach Marks. I'm a co-founder of GIA, which is providing blockchain-based microfinancing to entrepreneurs in emerging markets. Primarily, we focus on Kenya and the Philippines, where we provide inventory financing to a range of small businesses. We're a part of the Pando DAO, which Yacob started, which has been incredibly helpful for us sourcing talent and just figuring out all of the obstacles that there are to launching a business in emerging markets. I'm excited to share more, but I won't talk too long.
Nice. Hello, my name is Cheng. I'm also a co-founder of GIA together with Zach. Really proud to be a member of the Pando DAO, and we'll tell you more about our stories there in a short bit.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm also a co-founder of Pando DAO. We've been working with Pariti for a while, and full-time I'm at AngelList, liquidity lead, helped build up a lot of the syndicates infrastructure that became AngelList Venture.
Okay, awesome. So to everyone on stage, I'm gonna ask that you keep the microphone. Don't kiss it, but it's gotta be like right here. We gotta hear you, you know? So I would love to just like spend a couple more minutes, some more time hearing about your ventures. So if you could like walk us through Pando and Pariti, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so Pariti came up when I just saw the asymmetry of knowledge and resources on the continent. I moved to the continent about a decade ago, and I met so many amazing entrepreneurs that could not access capital, could not access talent to build their organizations. And without doing those things, we're not going to get the next JP Morgan, the Carnegies, the people that are going to unlock opportunities on the continent. And then furthermore, for the founders, we realized that we weren't actually learning from each other. We're all making the same mistakes. So the reason why the DAO is called Pando is the largest living organism in the world is called Pando. It looks like a forest, but it's all connected to one root. And that's what Pando is all about. We represent $5 billion in valuation, over $250 million in direct foreign investment. We employ over 17,000 people across the continent, and we've probably paid out close to about $15 million in taxes to African governments over the past year. So, yeah, that's a little bit about Pando.
Yo, clap it up, yeah. Yes, love that. So what are the vibes? Do we want to sit? Like, how are we feeling?
Well, I don't know. What does the audience think? Is it better if we stand, or is it awkward?
Sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for that validation. I didn't really like standing anyway.
Yeah, Yeah, so I would love to just like kick things off hearing about your community members. So you've talked about the DAO, you've talked about Pando, you've talked about the work that you are doing and the work you want to do more of. So I think it would be cool to hear about Pando, to hear about Gia. And then Michael, if you could kind of talk about, so Michael is actually an advisor to Pando. So if you could talk about why, and Pariti actually, why you decided to advise this particular venture, especially given your background living in China, being an AngelList individual, so that would be really awesome. So I'm gonna kick it over. Yeah, who wants to start?
I can shout out one of the Pando members. His name is Gregory Roxon. He runs a startup called M Pharma. I always say he's my favorite founder right now. When I mean like we're really trying to help build this continent, Gregory's startup actually saved the country of Gabon 30% on their healthcare procurement. And like that's everyday people's lives. I mean, people are getting access to drugs faster, cheaper, and they're improving the quality of their life. And that's just one of the members within Pando, just to give you a little bit of taste.
Cool. I'm happy to give a little background about what we're building at Gia. We're basically founded to help tackle the $5 trillion credit gap in emerging markets. And like just to put a face to that, just imagine this guy James I was hanging out with last week in Nairobi, who's a spice trader in a market. You know, in order to do his business, he basically has to go and buy his spices, buy his sesame seeds every 2 days because he doesn't have the working capital to buy at larger wholesale prices, like buy every 7 days or every 2 weeks. And if he could do that, then he could access lower prices, he could buy more. In the day I was visiting him to do some customer research, he actually ran out of sesame and he couldn't do a transaction while I was there. It's a very real live use case for why people need financing. So Cheng and I, we met because we've been spending the last decade working in microfinance, initially in traditional offline microfinance ventures where you're working with small community savings and borrowing circles. And then for the last 6 years at a fintech lending company, which basically has a mobile lending app. What you lose with the mobile lending fintech scale is any sense of community ownership. And of course, one of the great exciting things of Web3 is how you can enable distributed ownership at scale. And that's really what led us to start Gia, was this idea that we could provide not only financing, but also a path to building wealth and prosperity for small businesses so they can access financing to grow their businesses. But as the Gia protocol grows in value, they have a piece of that ownership pie. Yeah, that's what we're doing at Gia.
Yeah, Cheng, so you've worked in a multitude of African nations and kind of have fallen in love with the continent, obviously done microfinance and international development work. Would love to hear your take on why you're doing the work you're doing at Gia and what your vision for the future is.
Yeah, thank you, Yami. So a little bit background, as Yami mentioned, it's a little bit weird, like I'm the Chinese, but live in the States, but working most time in Africa. And part of me like thinking myself like already an African person. And then, so I started my career working in microfinance through global NGOs. That actually put me working in Nairobi in 2011 for about half a year. That's where I started like feeling a strong bond with the continent and wanted to come back to work there. That's why I started learning Swahili for a couple years, and which got me to working more into the microfinance space in Tanzania. I think where it all started is when I was in Tanzania working for a village bank project where because the local banks do not support the groups, the villagers, they do not have like their IDs, they cannot really access financing, so they meet regularly at the village to put some of their own savings into a saved box. And the leaders of the community, like a couple of them would own the access to take care of the saving. So that's actually like a community ownership where it's your money, you save there, but you have ownership and you can borrow from that. And then, as Zach mentioned, working the last decade in the fintech company. And kind of like in a very transactional relationship where when we encounter blockchain, that's what's really different is actually going back the traditional microfinance to give the people the rewards that they earn. When they repay a loan, they're bringing the interest revenue into the ecosystem. So they should be rewarded as a contributor, as an owner. I think that's really got us excited about what we are building at Gia. Which,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, so we are in DAO Town, so I would like to spend time talking about DAOs, and this is a question for Michael, because you are an advisor to Republic, to On Deck, and to Pariti, and so could you tell us like why you're optimistic about DAOs and just the structure and exactly why you're involved in Pando?
Yeah, I can tell you a bit. So my background, like my basic.
A little closer.
Sorry. My basic philosophy that I've been thinking about for the last 10 years in my career as I've been trying to encourage more entrepreneurship is that technology and innovation actually creates wealth. Many people look at the economy and they think businesses are taking a portion of it, and other means maybe other people lose, but actually what's happened over the last few hundred years since essentially the Industrial Revolution is that as technology continues to grow, there becomes more of a surplus, and so that helps the entire world. At Pariti, like when I got connected with Yacob, I was looking at the continent already. I'd made an investment in Nairobi, had worked with a company in Nigeria, and Yacob said he was starting Pariti with basically a similar mission, encouraging more entrepreneurship, more people who are striving to create better technology locally. And there are a couple basically hypotheses in there. One is talent is evenly divided around the world. There are talented people everywhere. Number two, I also had some experience living in China. I was there in 2008, and when you look at the GDP per person, this is basically national surplus. Over the next 10 years, some of the best companies ever were founded there, like highest growth companies ever. That's exactly where Africa is today. And so I think the DAO comes into it, though, because what Yacob has been trying to encourage, and what I think is going to be very helpful, is the community aspect of it. So founders in Silicon Valley, for example, you walk down the street, you can meet another founder who's 2 years ahead of you. They face some similar challenges, and they have today's greatest insight into what you're trying to do today, better than the investors that you meet, better than reading a book about it, because books are old. And so in Africa, there are many different countries. There are people actually doing this on the frontiers of knowledge, and this community is bringing them together.
Yes. So I would love to just dive into the numbers a little bit more, right? Because I think when we think about my background is traditional SaaS, building venture-backed businesses, and I think that the model of DAOs is a little bit different, but I think that Pando has had a lot of impact on the continent, and so if you, Yacob, could kind of share, the types of founders, who qualifies to be a part of Pando, and what have you done so far?
Yeah, so this is a collection of more mature founders. So what we realized was we didn't actually have a good knowledge share, so a lot of people were learning things really the hard way, having transfer pricing issues, not understanding how to hire, and that's some of the things that my startup Pariti works on. But now for the DAO, we're raising a fund because we know that overall Africa is going to have the largest population in the world. The median age in Africa right now is 19 years old, and if we don't collectively transfer over that knowledge to the next generation of founders, we're going to have a whole bunch of people that are eager and have a lot of energy, but not a lot of opportunity. And as I mentioned earlier, the collective value of the DAO, of the founders in it, is $5 billion. But if you look at the West, or specific,
how much is the collective? I didn't hear that number.
So all of our startups combined represent $5 billion in valuation.
That's with a B, right?
That's with a B.
Billy. Okay, cool.
And we've brought in over $250 million in direct foreign investment, and we employ 17,000 people across the continent, across 16 countries. And if you look at the states, 1% of GDP goes to venture dollars, but 50% of the S&P 500 is represented by venture-backed companies. If you were to even get a 10% replication of that in Africa, the amount of economic activity and the velocity of capital flowing through that economy, transformational is not even an accurate word to describe it. And when I show examples of what we're working on, 2 weeks ago we had a meeting with Vitalik and the central bank, and we came to a conclusion that if we were able to create 35,000 jobs in Kenya that paid over $35,000 annually, that increases the country's GDP by 1%. Like, we can really move the needle when we come together to solve problems, but we haven't had a gathering space before this. So everybody was kind of just figuring it out on their own, and unfortunately making the same mistakes. And it's really hard to do that, especially when you're in a market that does not have enough capital with the returns and opportunity that are there.
And I would say that, I mean, we all know that the market, the market is interesting these days, and you know the fact that you're raising for Pariti or Pando? Pando, right?
Parity's not raising just yet, but
Okay.
we're just raising for the fund right now. We're raising a $20 million fund for our DAO.
Okay, and then I know, Zach, you're also raising for Gia, right?
Oh yeah, well, for us it's more, we're raising basically on-chain liquidity. Think of it as like an on-chain debt raise to provide financing for these small businesses. I think back like a year ago, which was like peak crypto bull market times, and I felt like a fish out of the water because there's all these crypto casino projects that didn't really feel rooted in the real world, which is more where I'd worked. And now I think there's been a lot of enthusiasm into funding projects that bring real world assets on chain. And one thing that's really exciting, our head of engineering, Ivan's here, and one thing he's been working on at this ETH Denver is with the Huma protocol. We're actually, I mean, it's a simple idea, but tokenizing real world invoices from Kenyan small businesses to unlock liquidity for them. Simple idea, but kind of a revolutionary concept and kind of an exciting thing that's happening in Web3. Maybe say more about the Pando Fund.
Yeah, so one of the things that we realized is, I mean, when you look at the continent, you have 54 countries. That's a lot of different currencies. So we're pretty exposed to FX inflation. And the fund is not only just trying to invest to get returns, but if we are collectively working, we will actually design better sandboxes, things that allow entrepreneurship to grow and foster. And so to put it into perspective, in the States, if Michael has a startup and Yemi has a startup, and there's a gap in between the two, I can shoot the gap to be able to build, a $1 billion business. On the continent, you're kind of forced to build an entire vertically integrated stack. So we always say, like, the good thing is if you do build it, you have a phenomenal business that is vertically integrated, but you have an uphill battle. And the fund's purpose is not just to invest in these startups that are coming underneath us, but it's also to look at the privilege that we have as founders and be able to transfer some of that over with the knowledge and the infrastructure, and also get them access to the right resources so that they're actually able to solve these problems, because no one's really doing enough work around that right now.
Big facts. Okay, so our time is fast spent. So I would love to get to know our panelists a little bit more intimately, a little bit deeper. So we're gonna go to this side. I would love, just a question like, what's one thing that you hope for the African tech ecosystem? You could talk about it in its entirety or one particular country. And this is for Michael and Cheng.
All right, well, I mean, for me, I hope that there are more entrepreneurs thinking bigger. Like I was alluding to before, in San Francisco, where I was based for many years, the entrepreneurs there see each other, they think big, they look at challenges and opportunities, and they see their neighbors have actually overcome them, so they can do them as well. So what I've been very encouraged by seeing within Pando DAO's conversation is the founders who are there saying, how did you solve the cross-border FX issues? And other people say it's not that big a deal. Like we did it this way. We can connect you to the right guy. Everybody's getting bigger and bigger and having a bigger and bigger impact.
Nice. I think being a founder, and I think that's why it's so unique about Pando, is that like previously being working a decade in Africa, I've met so many great entrepreneurs, but everyone's working in a silo, right? Most of them, I was working for a well-funded fintech company, but most of them are so talented, but they don't really connect. Or even if they do connect, it's most about like a business, very transactional relationship. Can I be a vendor to your business? But I think what really Pando DAO for me is like really being open-minded. That's all being this, if we can grow the ecosystem, we will all be better off as partners in a more collaborative way. So that's what I'm hopeful for our Pando DAO, is like more entrepreneurs, open-minded, develop strategic partnerships, supporting each other, growing the ecosystem, the economy of the whole continent. Then all of us are growing together. So that's my hope.
That's good. So we're gonna take two more questions, and you can share your hopes and weave it into this question, but I want to get a little real because I feel like, sometimes these panels, we're at a high surface level. So I want to ask you, to tell me about a mistake you made recently and what that mistake taught you about yourself or what you learned from it. And you can answer the hope question if you want to. Yeah.
That's a great question. Made lots of personal mistakes, but professionally with Gia, one thing we're learning, I think this is like obvious startup stuff, but I think we almost tried to over-engineer a solution recently. We're providing inventory financing for medical clinics. So there's medical clinics in Nairobi. We work with a partner, actually, it's called Ilara Health. Another great way that the DAO is bringing us together is we have these partners in the DAO. Anyway, so we work with Ilara to get data about these medical clinics, which we use to underwrite, and then we provide them financing. What we built to go to market, we thought it was an MVP, but still it was a lot of engineering time to build a quite robust solution that could seamlessly fit into their workflow. When really, probably what we just needed was a human sales agent to go over to the clinics and sit down with them and work with them. I don't think that's not a Web3 unique lesson. It's just like a basic startup lesson sometimes, just like do the small things in person that don't scale to build a business.
Yacob.
Yeah, I mean, as far as mistakes go, there's a long list of them, but I guess I've said this, a couple times, but we thought too short term early on, and what I'm working on with the people here on this panel and then Pando DAO and with the people that are helping us build Pariti is this is my life's work. I'm Eritrean. My family left because of civil war, and they gave me a lot of opportunities in the States. And I'm back on the continent doing my best to provide more capital and access to talent. So my mistake of thinking short term has been changed to I'm thinking in decades, because this is what I'm building for the remainder of my future.
That's good. Do we want to share anything on this side, mistakes-wise?
I think our time's nearly
they're
up.
not paying attention. We're vibing.
I have a shout out. I wanted to shout out to Orange, that was just on the panel before, because they were a big inspiration for us, and we did work with Origami as well. So that's how we came up with a lot of the structure for.
So that
for
was
Pando DAO.
shout out to Orange DAO. Woo woo!
They're right here, and Matt right here, you can see him, and Steve, they've been super helpful, very, very helpful. And they're also a stakeholder in Pando and just giving us a lot of information and insight and support, and we wouldn't be here without them.
So, okay, cool. Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap on that note. Really appreciate you vibing with us. And yeah, I guess last thing as we walk off stage is any encouraging words you have for builders? Like, this shit is hard. Being a founder is, yeah, it's a lot. So anything you want to say to encourage people as they keep building businesses and operating in this space?
Keep building in public, and a lot of people will come and help you when they see your hard work.
That's what's up. Woo! Thank you.